Introducing the Grow Me Gang podcast, a show for growers by growers, where the goal is to learn with you and each other. Talk and grow is our passion, and we welcome all opinions. Shoot us an email to dig into the cultivation conversation. We would love to have you. Let's meet the gang. Chloe, Nisha, John, Kenny, Devon, and Justin. Now, without further ado, let's sharpen our shears, refill our res, and sow some motherfucking seeds.
Welcome back, Gromies. My name is Kenny. As you know, we are doing episode 3 tonight, and tonight we're going to cover a little bit of our pre-grow considerations and hopefully dive into our own personal grows tonight. Can't promise anything, but fingers crossed, Gromies.
Fuck yeah. So glad to be back. You know how much we all love talking grow. We get a little carried away. Hopefully you've been hanging out for the extended length episodes, but they're probably going to keep coming at you that long. Listen, if you got to hop off early, take it in 2 chunks. If you feel like you want to hop off early, what we are going to do, we understand people don't have a whole lot of time all the time, and we do get a little bit rambly. So we're going to try and front load the education segments, right? And then I say try because obviously the personal growth is going to get mixed in there as well at some points. And so there's going to be times when that education segment will run a little bit longer, but we are going to try and front load the education and then kind of let our rambles and personal stuff happen at the back end. So the people who are here mostly for the book learning, if you will, are able to do so. Anyway, Devon, anything you want to add?
Dude, I'm just excited. I'm so pumped. I mean, we covered a lot last episode, and we've, like Kenny said, we're gonna clean this up. And honestly, I'm just so happy to be here with everybody again, running our mouths, talk and grow. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's good shit.
Oh yeah. So one of the big things that we didn't really get to dive into last time, or actually, excuse any hard edits, but we want to insert a little clip about fluorescent lighting here because you can also use that as well as incandescent bulbs. So, and we're back. So thanks for tuning into our little pre-segment that we had before we decided to start the podcast. And now that we're back, we're going to talk about the another pre-grow consideration that you should take into consideration is, wow, I said consideration a lot. You guys want to hear me say it one more time?
Yeah, one more time. Because then the considerate elf shows up. The considerate Canadian shows up.
Hey, that's me. Anyway,
hey!
So you're medium, right? What do I mean by medium? I don't know if we covered that in the terminology.
We're communicating with ghosts.
Yes, we're communicating.
No.
Actually, Kenny is very spiritual on a tangent, but let's not go too far down that tangent right now because we haven't even talked grow yet. So we do want to circle back to that. You guys are going to look forward to it. I'm going to put him on the spot in another point. But anyway, medium, we're talking about what you grow in. Medium, like an artist's medium. For us, our canvas is the plant per se, but the plant's canvas, what it needs to grow is the soil. So your medium, right? That's what we're talking about. Your soil or rock wool or cocoa, the rhizosphere, really. But like what you choose, because I mean, it not necessarily you choose. If you're outside, it's regular soil. You're just in the outside soil medium, right? That it's whatever you're choosing to grow with. So what you're typically going to see inside is going to be soilless mixes. Some people who are crazy like Devon like to bring the organics indoors. And then you're actually growing with a soil or a living soil, something of that nature. Typically a soilless mix, though, the peat-based mix, your Fox Farms, your Mother Earth, cocoa, those types of things, those are soil-less. They don't actually contain sand, silt, or clay, right? And also are going to typically be lacking in microbiology. Not that it's non-existent, but it's not abundant, right? It's not
and if it's stored incorrectly, it will be abundant in fungus gnats.
Yeah, and potentially fungus. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You also have things like rock wool, like I mentioned, and oasis cubes, which are essentially like these foam blocks, right? Have you ever seen like the blocks inside a fake bouquet, right? Like
Oh,
inside
those little green things that are
Yes.
super fun to squish.
Yes, they have
Okay.
those same cubes that can be used for root cubes, right?
You can use that for.
Yeah,
Oh, shit. I
many
didn't know
commercial nurseries get them actually in a flat where it's up, and you may have used them. A more home grow version that's used is like those pre-filled plug trays that have like that brown foam in it.
Yep.
Not like the Rapid rooters or the Riot rooters. Those are a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a spongy material.
Okay, those are the ones I know. The spongy brown.
This
You
is
can use them for clones.
It is spongy, but it's almost more like that brittle spongy. That's Rockwool.
Is that
This is
Rockwool? Isn't that like spun up volcanic stone, right?
I don't. It is expanded rock. I don't have notes in front of me to give you the answer, but go ahead and hit that Google machine. I don't want to speak incorrectly. Oh, vermiculite is mica. I was gonna say I think it's mica, but that's vermiculite. What was it that you said?
Rockwool is made. Rockwool is made from molten rock that has been spun into fibers, and
Like
it's highly
cotton
flame
candy.
resistant. Create Rockwool from basalt rock and sell it in slabs, like Kenny was just showing us.
It's like cotton candy, seriously though. Like
Don't eat it.
They make it liquid and
eat
yeah, no,
Rockwool.
definitely. I mean, you probably could. I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't really break down though, people. So that is a drawback of Rockwool, is that it lasts forever. Now, I personally used to just dump it right in with my compost because I initially thought like, yeah, it doesn't break down, but even if it's in the soil, maybe it will just provide like an aeration pocket or something.
Mineral
they're
content,
also
maybe.
Like, yeah, maybe. And maybe it wouldn't even be as bad if you were to like shred it almost, right? Instead of leave it as a cube. But if you leave it as a cube, what I found is that little Rockwool cube will actually hold like
A lot of moisture.
And then you like, if you ever notice that algae grows on it, things really like to grow in there. And so it's almost like a really nice home for a microbial population, which could potentially be beneficial, I guess, if you're using something sterile. But if you're using something that's been around, it's also potentially got bad stuff in there, right? And it might be because it's not getting hot enough to break down. It might not be getting hot enough to be sterilized either within that Rockwool chunk, right? So this is just things that I've been thinking about. It's not anything that I've done extensive research into, but I'm spitballing that out there, and I'd love your guys' idea.
So the best thing to do that I know that I was trained with those from the grower that I learned with is basically once you're done with your plant, you pull your plants out of the dirt, you harvest or whatever, you take those, you just toss them in the garbage.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is it's unsustainable medium, right? So if you're somebody who is concerned with the environment or just even economics, right? Something that you can't continually reuse, right? If you're growing in huge Rockwool cubes, like you can grow some massive bangers. And there are people who get huge yields, do a great job with microfeeds. That was the word I was looking for, like 9 microfeeds a day, right? All timed out perfectly. And it's just,
I know a guy, that's how he does it.
Eat. Bangers. Beautiful bud too. I'm not trying to knock it whatsoever. But for me, at the end of the day, now I got this big block that I'm just going to throw away, right? Which is fine for people who that's not an issue for them. But for me personally, it is an issue. Like we talked about before on the show when Devon asked me, how aren't you growing organically, right? But like, I would love to, and I'm very sustainably minded. So I personally try to avoid Rockwool so much that I even stopped cloning in it for the most part. Go ahead.
Well, you've got you're throwing it away every time, which increases the cost of your run. But also you have to physically throw it away And it looks hyper suspect if all of a sudden you've got a bag with like 150 big ass Rockwell cubes that busts in your fucking driveway. Like, I'm pretty sure these aren't for cucumbers, guy.
You're right. Your Fox Farm bags aren't any less suspect. I'm just kidding. We talked
depends
about
on the time of year. I highly recommend you pick up all your bags in the spring. So that way you're not the only guy starting a garden in the middle of January.
You know what? I had to go pick up more soil. So,
I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's not illegal to have bags of dirt. I'm curious. So
I have a comment on that. Hold on. Don't run too far away from the bags.
Go for it. Brief.
Hey, listen, we're just getting our spring flowers ready, you know?
So I personally wouldn't mind going to stock up all my bags of soil in January. You know what's going to be really, really low in numbers in January?
Insects,
microbes, all of that. You go get that
spring pallet
soil,
that sat outside.
Yeah. I mean, but as soon as it opens up in the spring, everything's going to come alive and go move into that beautiful bag of soil that's just sitting there relatively sheltered.
But I'm curious because you talked about the Rockwell cube being a host for what looks like microorganisms, right?
Well, I mean,
because of the moisture content. Well, just algae.
It definitely easily grows algae.
And Pythium.
Pythium?
To be honest with you, I've had those blocks grow algae during seedings. And I've thrown the whole thing away.
Well, I guess it's probably well, no, you don't have to throw it away from algae, bro. Algae's fine. We grow everything in algae in Rockwell at school.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about it. So, you know, it turned green. I'm like, yeah, gotta go. Goodbye.
I'm wondering if you could use it as a microbial host similar to biochar.
Yeah, I as I was saying it, I saw your eyes kind of light up, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that could be an option. But I would definitely look into it because oh
no, I'm gonna be the first one that fucking does it.
It's right? Well, maybe not the first one because I already told you I've been putting in my compost for years, but
you've been putting it in your compost, but to take it, bury it similar to IMO, but instead of having to like carry dirt and rice, you could actually just take that Rockwell cube, put it on your dirt, cover it with starch. You know what I mean? We won't get into that too much. You also talked about.
You could put the starch inside of it, like shove it inside the fibers.
And then you got to get it back out though, because that's where what your microbes feed on. You got to crack the Rockwell. The starch is to just feed the microbes.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You put some inside of there, then it would like encourage them to
get in there. Yeah,
migrate inside and like colonize the entire. This is really advanced, and honestly, around that, I'm bullshitting, and I don't know enough about to know if there's any truth to it. So,
I know that it's an inorganic medium, but it is porous. However, it is the carbon atoms in biochar that helps attract those microbes and the microbes that will also hold and maintain nutrients, because if you throw raw biochar on something, it actually sucks up all the nutrients and microbes. It's crazy. Your plants will be absolute shit. So we got Rockwell. We've got a soilless peat-based mix.
Pros and cons, right? A peat-based mix is gonna.
Let's get through all of them because we've got cocoa. And straight water.
And straight water. I did not say water. I do have it there, but I didn't say it.
Water, there's a few different types. Well, I guess
there's a lot of types of water. Go ahead. Do we want to get into types of hydroponics, or do we want to save that for another day?
let's briefly touch on just the names, but we won't get too far into how each one works, you know. Like,
let's do a round robin.
All right, ebb and flow. Got me.
Listen, I have not fucked with hydroponics in years, so
That's all right.
Just name one.
honestly couldn't even tell you.
Deep water culture.
Deep water culture. Then there is recirculating.
Nutrient film technique.
Drain to waste. And then aeroponics is a form of hydroponics as long as you use water as the nutrient medium, which most of them do. And then
aquaponics.
Aquaponics using fish. And I'm sure we're missing some.
There's definitely a lot of creative ways it's been done.
Oh, yeah.
There's float techniques, which is just a variation of deep water culture. There's vertical walls, which is a variation of nutrient film technique. There's
you say fogponics?
Fog? We did not say fog.
I don't know. I Google types of hydroponic systems, and there's
that makes
drip
sense.
irrigation.
It's moisture.
There's fogponics. So fogponics is an advanced form of aeroponics,
where they just put a cloud inside of a
more atomized
chamber.
Water.
It's got to be sealed. I'm sure it's got to be like 100% sealed.
They use water misting to provide water and nutrients and plants or for the plants.
It's just atomized water instead of a spray emitter.
I got you.
I actually, with hydroponics, I know a gentleman. It's really cool. He uses rock wool. What was the system you talked about with the nutrients coming down so many times a day?
Microfeeding.
Microfeeding, but he uses rock wool cubes in a type of hydroponic grow that's microfeeding, where he has a cube, a plant, and an emitter, and he runs his timer. I think it's 4 times for 15 minutes in a day.
Yep.
And it spits directly on that rock wool cube, feeds the plant. The rock wool cube holds the moisture really well, so it took him a while to dial it in until it like dried out. But he sprays the water, it runs down a tilted table, runs back to his reservoir, and then gets fucking pumped out again. But that's a combination of mediums. That's water with rock wool.
I'm so pro and con, like most things in life. I'm sure people will realize I'm so pro and con with recirculating, because it's like it's more sustainable, but at the same time, like I'm so paranoid about having all my plants connected on the same water line. A, because of pathogens. B, because if there's any kind of hole in that water line, it could just open up microbes to everything, which is a similar thing to pathogens.
Be
and
religious with your maintenance.
After that shit runs through the rock wool, bro, it is not the same nutrient mix.
Right.
So the way I know he does it, and I'm talking, he's been doing this for 20 years, right?
I know
he found a way for it to work, you know. And it took a lot of trial and error for him to get where he is today with it.
Oh yeah.
He runs his water for a week, so he mixes, puts it together, and lets it run for about a week. And he uses a simple A/B solution along with the great white myco to help with that fungi buildup. He adds beneficials to his water.
Interesting.
And he adds the A/B, the myco.
Never heard anybody recommend putting myco into a hydroponic drip system.
But he doesn't have algae. He doesn't have issues at his roots. He deals with insects.
Are you sure he doesn't sprinkle it on top of the cube?
He does not sprinkle it on top of the cube. I've got it written in the book. You know what? Let's see.
I've always heard that putting any kind of microbial through a drip system is just asking for problems, unless you're
some of these guys
flushing, maintaining, and in a microbes case, I would assume you'd have to probably scrub. I mean,
See
salt
if
as
I-
well, but like once salt builds up, it's
Okay.
crazy. You just get a new line.
So great white powder, and he uses great white powder for microbacteria, and then carb load for sugar for
Carbo
the
load,
last 3
yeah.
days before harvest.
3 days.
He doesn't do it for the whole thing. He says it gums up his system.
That I believe, but only 3 days.
Listen, some of the shit he
I don't feel like
does
there's
for-
enough time for plant metabolism for that to be
It might not
super
maybe-
beneficial. I would just
maybe
start it
he's
like
wasting it.
a week. That's all.
I have had his shit. I have known a lot of people who have had it, and it can't be touched. I mean, he found that perfect
Blend.
symbiosis where that method works for him. But he's also been doing it for so long, he won't change it or try anything new. You know? And I mean, you find what works, why change it?
Yeah, why change it?
But I will say he battles powdery mildew because you've got
I
a
like
room
to
full of
change it.
water. Insects like anybody else because he's dealing a lot with clones. And then lastly, like we talked about pets and we
I
talked
swear by
about
plant
pests.
therapy. Sorry. Go ahead.
He had a fucking squirrel bust in the room.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's funny.
Knocked over the fucking pumps, the water, everything. Shut him down. He was
Probably
done.
chewed a couple of stems.
I'll be right back.
Ooh, now I'm high. Yeah, do you think?
So, question for you.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about water and, obviously hydroponics, automatic watering systems and all that, I'm sure there's going to be somebody out here sitting there thinking like, well, I've seen those glass aqua globes. What do you think of those? Like, let's cover a question from the audience, those
Aqua
glass.
globes. Yeah.
the glass-
So what I would say with those is they're gonna be great for a vacation or for an organic grower who's running most of their nutrients in the soil. I don't personally think that most of them are big enough to really sustain your water unless you were putting one in there once or twice a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like you just wanted it to run out slowly. But I'm pretty sure they function off of like moisture. So I feel like it would just dump right out. It would just keep going unless I don't know. I've never tried one because it seemed like a moot point to me. So I don't want to knock it. I'm sure there's somebody out there who's growing banging cannabis with water globes. But I
Can you
probably
explain
would
what a
only
water
use
globe
it
is?
in super soil if it was me.
Devon?
Or like if I had to go on vacation.
What's a water globe?
One of those things that's looks like a
Like a glass ball on top, and it's got like a glass stem that comes down. You actually fill it with water, tip upside down, and shove it in your soil.
Oh, yeah. It's the poor man's blue mat.
right.
You left. I brought up the question to Justin for the audience, as somebody in the audience might have the question of what about those water globes, since we're talking about hydroponic systems, automatic watering systems, things like that. So that's why I brought up the question of the water globe, just to cover that, as
Well,
somebody's watching may pop into their head.
hydroponics versus auto watering is two separate things, because hydroponics is using water as the source to feed nutrients to your plants, whereas the auto water is just to keep your root mass from drying out, but it doesn't technically. I mean, I'm sure you could mix like a nutrient mix into it and then put it in and let it feed over a week.
You can do like big buckets, like tubs and stuff like that, because I know somebody that has it set up in their basement for that. It's actually really cool because you have to do liquid fertilizer, liquid nutrients, whatever. It's really cool, but you have to keep up on obviously how much water goes into it. You have to keep track of all that and have to mix it up weekly, or I think he has it for every 2 weeks because he's got like 55-gallon drums. So
He improv them.
yeah, so I mean,
They're not legit glass globes.
No, he has like nozzles running to every plant, things like that. Like these are actually, this whole setup is like really nice for, an automatic watering system.
You asked
but
me
no.
about glass globes. I'm all about having a fucking gravity fed watering system.
You're lost because you're like 5 minutes behind. Devon brought up the automatic watering systems compared to hydroponic setups. So that's why I said that he wasn't sure if you could have it like, have a reservoir filled up and put nutrients in it, which you can do that.
Well, yeah, that you can do. Because you can take a fucking drip emitter system and hook it up to a pump to a timer in a reservoir and feed your soil based off of that. You run it, you time how long it takes to get that runoff, and then fucking have your timer set and know that if I only run this fucking thing for 10 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, based off your gallons per hour rate of your emitter, you could theoretically feed hundreds of plants water-based nutrients without ever picking up a watering can. I know you can. I know you can build it. I want to build one. We're doing blue mats first, though.
Right. Blue mats. That's what I'm saying. That's where you should stay at, because that's sustainability right there. That's gravity fed, no pumps, no electricity. All you need is, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably could run salts through it, because it really is just a screw that holds the thing. But where I would run into a problem is I would need something that was in there constantly stirring it, because I don't have a pump that's like moving the water around. You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna build, because water aeration and mixing is huge in the organic world, right? For all your teas and shit. And there's a couple of different, they call them brewers, right?
Yeah.
Build a soil. Yep. So build a soil.
Ted Hussey's dad's got one that's oh man, I'm not gonna talk about it because I'm gonna say the wrong word, and that's not it. But he's got one that's really well renowned. Put it that way. The guy who does Vortex? The Kiss Organic show. Cannabis Cultivation and Science podcast.
Yes. Oh, the Kiss Organics guy. Yeah. That's I think they use the Vortex brewer. Yeah. It's got the 3 chutes coming in from the side and it spins it. It's like the tornado shape.
Maybe.
Or is there's the post? Because the post is build a soil.
No, build a soil is Jeremy.
Also, I mean, shout outs. If you guys want to get some good knowledge on organics, the podcast that Kiss.
No, it's the microbulator.
Oh, the microbulator.
Yeah, the microbulator.
Microbulator. Is that yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Not the Vortex, but the microbulator that I want to build.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love building shit. So, I mean, shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, because then you could put that in with your freaking blue mats. So, like, that's the thing, man. Like, if you just, I think that you could do the blue mats. I just feel like, I don't know. Yeah, I think you could do them for sure with compost teas and all that.
I feel like everything I've watched says you add the compost tea after the fact.
Top dress. What? That would make more sense, because you don't want the compost tea sitting in there for a length of time, and that's gonna
go
off of water gradient. Yeah.
Well, there's also
that's
things
why you gotta
like
talk through things when you're stoned. Sorry, go ahead.
You got like molasses and stuff, and molasses gums up fucking everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure does. Yeah, it's a sticky bitch. It'll even stain the side of your bucket.
And if you have it settle at the bottom and
good luck,
you don't realize it, and you fill your bucket a little early, and all of a sudden you're like, why the fuck is my water slimy? It's because you had fucking molasses in the bottom of your bucket, because you got a black bucket like a fucking idiot, and you can't really tell if it's clean or not. But I live wildly, so I just watered my shit with it. Something will happen. Fuck it.
I got all the different colors, but I didn't even know they have. Where did you find a black bucket?
Side of the road.
That's fair.
Bro, I'm cheap. I'm so fucking cheap, bro. It's not funny. I got oh, I should start wearing a collection of hard hats that I found because they fall off the back of work trucks on 104. And I'll be like, oh shit, pull over and grab that thing. It's like a fucking $50 hard hat, bro. For $3.
Thrifty. Can't be mad.
Oh, we learn a new thing about you every episode, Devon.
Hell yeah.
I am a cheap
You impress
motherfucker.
me more every day. No, you are economical and environmentally sound, because by picking up that hard hat, you're picking up litter. You're potentially thinking about repurposing it later after you take it off your shelf. And
You're picking up
both of those are great things. I don't need a third thing.
Nope.
Picking up something.
So you think we've covered mediums pretty
Yeah,
good,
we kicked mediums. Water, no, recirculating hydroponics, something to think about. Like I said, the pathogens. That's across anything recirculating DWC. Now, while it's better because it's going to continually mix your nutrients as it's recirculating, you don't have just necessarily a bubbling pot of air bubbles that really your salt's still going to fall to the bottom if you're not in there mixing it properly. And like, yeah, so recirculating helps with that, but you have to worry about microbes. So just wanted to touch on that. Cocoa coir is relatively inert. If you make sure you know your source. Some cocoa comes really, really salty and you need to rinse it before you use it. And then if you do rinse it, you're probably still going to have to buffer it. Look that up for specifics on your brand of cocoa. I use Mother Earth cocoa and I just run with it and it works great. They don't pay me. Just a shout out. I'm sliding down in my chair for some reason.
Yeah, you're getting so much lower. It's like watching the Titanic, bro.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's something to think about with cocoa. With peat-based mixes, they're going. Oh, and cocoa and rock wool are both going to dry out a little bit quicker, so you're going to be able to feed more frequently. I don't want to say feed more heavily, but more frequently, and therefore adjust your feedings more appropriately, as opposed to just trying to throw the kitchen sink at it because you only get to water every 3 days, like in a peat-based mix, because that's going to retain its water for 2 to 3 days, even if you're in a fabric pot. And unless you're really root bound or outside or something of that nature, typically you're only watering every 2, 3, 4 days in a peat-based mix. So yeah, I think that kind of kicks medium. There are some other things that we could talk about, but they're really few and far between. Like we could talk about growing in Hydro 10, which is really just clay pebbles, right? Which is a form of hydroponics. It's the same thing. Really, water is your medium. The Hydro 10 is just kind of holding the roots in place. But like, yeah. So, and then one thing that I really want to make sure I want to throw in here kind of early, right, is the ethics behind growing. There is a big culture thing, right, with cannabis typically. And so a lot of people who are growing think a certain way. And if this doesn't apply to you, totally fine. I personally am not worried about what your ethical decisions are. That's on you, not on me. Grow how you grow, boo-boo. You know what I mean? But if you are concerned, there are some things that don't necessarily jive with what a lot of the community likes to follow. And I'm not going to soil any names because I don't want to cause any enemies. But if there's anything you could think of like a company whose money you don't necessarily want to support, just do your research. And I'm going to take like what the Dude Grow Show says and vote with your dollars, right? Just do your research, please. I'm not going to put any thoughts into your head. Do your own research.
When it comes to that, I will say go above and beyond to not use artificial PGRs. And if you do use artificial PGRs, kind of disclose that, man. For those, I have trouble with my memory. I'm very good at broad spectrum, and then I have to research things. And as you watch this show, you'll see that. But PGRs are growth hormones that are present, and there are organic and inorganic forms of it. when I use sprouted seed teas, I'm using basically a form of hormonal boost for the plant, but it's an organic source that's already available. These artificial PGRs are, oh, I just read an article. I'm sorry, I don't want to lie to anybody. But basically, they're what holds the they're what contains the chemical components that we know for a fact to be bad for you, that are gonna like degrade your body, your cells, right? I'm using I got it. All right. When looking at side effects from PGR, we need to distinguish between natural and synthetic. Natural PGRs are in things like kelp, right? And that's it's a superfood, right? I'm also using homegrown cannabis co. Synthetic PGRs use various chemicals like diminazide, central to a 1989 EPA report on the Alar apple scare. The agency banned it from all use on consumable foodstuffs as long-term exposure to Alar poses unacceptable risks to public health. And remember, it's completely different from edibles to smokables, because when you smoke these chemical components, their effects are tenfold. So if you can eat an apple with it and it's going to fuck you up, smoking it's going to fuck you. Smoking it will ruin you. Subsequent trials found tumors in mammals exposed to high doses of the PGR, and it's labeled a probable human carcinogen. There's paclobutrazol, PBZ, called a pesticide in the European Union, but prohibited from use on foodstuffs in the US. PBZ spurs root growth, affects height, promotes early flowering, and improves yields, which is what they're using PGR for, is big ass yields. It does so with increased cell division expansion to make buds pack tighter. The World Health Organization lists it as moderately dangerous. It's also a proven environmental contaminant, especially dangerous to aquatic ecosystems. And it showed liver damage in rodents. And then there's chlormequat chloride, also approved as a pesticide in the European Union, and the United States has labeled it an extremely hazardous substance that increases crop size and promotes ripening. However, it's also linked to liver damage in mammal studies and have also been connected to developmental and reproductive problems in animal trials, where they say if you're a stoner, you can't get other people pregnant. It's probably because you smoked a bunch of PGR weed. And then there's uniconazole with a similar structure to the PBZ, and it decreases plant height and prevents over elongation, right? If you're limited on your canopy height from lights, you want to keep those plants shorter, but you don't have the time when you have a warehouse full of thousands of plants to top everyone, low stress train everyone, do manifolding on every plant. You don't have that capacity, so let's do it artificially with chemicals. To date, at high doses, it appears to lead to liver toxicity and respiratory problems in animal trials, and those are ones covered by the Homegrown Cannabis Co. Scary shit, right?
Absolutely. So I wasn't trying to cut it off by any means, but I know that the names are important, right, of what you're looking up, because other than that, you're going to have people who go, fuck you, you don't know what you're talking about, you're just hating on PGRs because you heard PGRs. And I didn't want to get into a trap of us being like spitballing without actually, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'm glad that you found that. Thank you. That's also pesticides, things like the big one, right? In the past, it's pretty much outlawed everywhere. You might be able to find it. I've never looked for it, so I don't know. But Eagle 20, right? If you're using anything along those lines, the fungicides, pesticides that are not approved, or if you're spraying really any kind of pesticide in flower, you should tell people that you're doing that, because that there could potentially be harmful chemicals in those pesticides that are gonna hurt their lungs. And you don't know if they already have a respiratory disorder or a nervous disorder, which those pesticides may interact with and cause a way more severe reaction than what you think is going to cause just because you smoke it all the time, right? It could potentially happen. Just be careful. Pesticides aren't good for you in the long run anyways. We probably all smoked them, but still, like, let's try to minimize that moving forward. Right. Weed's legal now. We can get it safely. There's methods to get rid of these things biologically. There's methods to get rid of them with organic products. And some of those organic, just because it's organic, also, let me touch on that too. Just because it's organic does not mean it's safe. Arsenic is organic. I'd repeat it. I brought it up before, but arsenic is organic. It's approved for organic in azomite, right? So I wouldn't recommend that in high consumption. You know what I'm saying? So just because it's organic doesn't mean it's safe. Just because you have an organic pesticide doesn't mean you can spray it when you have your flowers. Even if it says use anytime. Do your research. Maybe smoking lemon oil isn't the best thing for your lungs. I don't know. Look into it.
I got something. Oh, you guys are about to love me for this. Maybe you're not, right? Because what you use isn't on this list. So for those of you who don't know, I spent 2 years trying to stand up a fully operational legal cannabis cultivation operation, and the regulations became too expensive for me to compete with, and that's fine. In the process, I started trying to prepare, and I said, okay, I need a good IPM, integrated pest management system. And I started looking at other regulations, and I stumbled across Justin, you're going to love this because it's the cornell.edu resource for hemp. And the New York State DEC has updated their pesticide information database and added a designation for hemp. And you can go to the New York State DEC website, look at an entire list of hemp-approved pesticides with a minimal environmental impact. If you go to hemp.cals.cornell.edu, you will find a how to start growing hemp on their website. If you scroll down to the bottom, there's pesticide information, and it takes you to a dec.newyork.gov/NYSPAD/products?1. And it takes you to a Bureau of Pesticides Management information portal, and you use the use type and you select hemp, and then it's under advanced search. You click search, and it will give you every pesticide that it's available and what you can use it for and its environmental impact. And it will tell you spider mites, thrips, aphids, gnats, powdery mildew, blight, and it's already there for you. And if you actually click on the pesticide, it will tell you safe for flowering, safe for vegetative only, not for seedlings. It's already there for you in a regulated, concise, easily listed manner. We'll try and add the links here.
What's approved on there?
Oh, you wanna? Okay, hold on.
Is soybean oil, peppermint oil, and citric acid approved?
Of course not. Search. It's a government website, so it does take
clunky.
A while to.
They got a lot of data on those websites, though. Bear with them. Like, everybody talks shit, but you have to realize the resources they're compiling and how much it takes to actually run those. So, like, we think like, oh, the government's taking all my money, and most of the time they are because they have ridiculous salaries. But there is a lot of expensive shit that they do provide also.
So they compiled, the total list was for 14,000 different pesticides. The ones for hemp is 123 products. This seems to be.
Do they have it listed by active ingredient?
Alphabetical. Batori stop. It's a fungicide, insecticide, captive, carbonator. Clonex rooting gel is in here.
Yes. As a pesticide, eh? Why? Because
growth regulator. No, it's a growth regulator.
Yeah.
But basically,
I-
Diamestis earth. Every organic grower's talked about Diamestis.
Diatomaceous.
Diatomaceous. Thank you,
So
Justin.
diatoms, diatomaceous earth. Okay. We'll dive into that a different time because I would like to be more well spoken when we get into it.
Absolutely. But I just wanted, the listeners to know that this resource is here. Right.
You didn't answer me. Do they have soybean oil, peppermint oil, or citric acid? Look up citric acid.
They don't have citric acid. They don't have peppermint oil. What was the other one?
Soybean oil.
All right, let me go to the acids.
Now, do you know what you could probably look at, though? Are they approved for organic production? Because if they're approved for, I'm not asking you to look that up, but you could go to like the NOFA website or any of those websites, or probably the state website. But I'm sure there's organic hemp certifications that you could look up that you could see if those types of things are in there, because this is legit soybean oil, peppermint oil, citric acid, and some soap and alcohol.
Soybean oil's not on here.
Well, right, and I'm not expecting them to be because they're probably proprietary products that they're having approved.
Yes.
And only chemicals that are like chemicals are being listed.
Yes. Well, it's like we know that aloe is a fantastic relief for like first degree sunburn, and it's not FDA approved to treat sunburn
because you can't regulate it, right?
Same with vitamin C.
Yeah, that's
why they tell you a vitamin C tablet will do it, but eating an orange is not a cure for scurvy, even though we know that just that vitamin C content, no matter what you take it in from, will assist you with a disease like that. But it's not
vitamin D, by the way, public service announcement for anybody who's skeptical of COVID. There's a whole movement of doctors across, and I'm not trying to get political, but this is good for you regardless of your political stance. But there is a movement of doctors across like the southern mid-tier, whatever, who are, this is uneducated. This is off the spot. Forgive me. I did not research this today. Vitamin D. He said he was treating his patients with vitamin D and all of them were being cured.
I will tell you something that I can speak on. For those of you who are affected by seasonal depression up here on the north, in the north where it's cloudy for, 2.5 months, add a little vitamin D supplement. I'm not a doctor. Please, if you take other medications, anything like that, talk to your doctor. But vitamin D can actually help you with your mental outlook when you deal with seasonal depression. I deal with year-round depression, yay! But that vitamin D will help you with the seasonal portion of it.
And go outside.
That's right. Go outside, enjoy the sunshine.
Come to our pop-ups. Well, not ours, the other ones that are listed on our app. Well, not Grow Me Gang's app, UrbanQuest app. I'm high right now. I do a lot.
With the pests too, and talking ethics, when you handle the finished cannabis product, be fucking clean. Right? It kills me. I understand you can wash your hands, but like wear gloves. Right? Clean off the workspace when you're gonna trim. It kills me when this dude's got these grubby I got grubby ass hands. I work with boiler piping and shit. Nobody wants those grubby ass hands holding your butt.
Can I say one thing though, please?
Absolutely.
Please. If you're gonna use gloves, please do not use latex. There's a lot of people out there with a latex allergy. I'm a high latex allergy, so when it comes to latex, I don't play around. And if it touches the butt or something like that, there's a chance that latex powder I'm going to smoke it and it's going to irritate the fuck out of my lungs. So latex is a big no-go. Obviously be aware of people's allergies.
And they're already $17 a box. You could pay the $18 to get the neoprene. They feel better on your hands too.
Yeah.
And it's little
And you
things.
might not find out about your own allergy.
That's right.
Um,
Hard way.
yeah, prom night was a son of a bitch for you.
Hold on quick though. We were talking about cleanliness real quick. I want to give Kenny the floor for a minute on something he was researching the other day.
Yeah, so I do got to read the article a little bit more in depth, and I do want to do some more research on it because I'm still skeptical on it. But I did research it, I did read it, and I did send it to Justin about washing your buds on the final harvest.
Bud wash.
Okay, Devon knows about it. So, like, I was actually skeptical. Like, I want to read more about it because I'm actually intrigued about it because, like, you know, obviously I have grown outdoors. I've grown indoors. And I didn't know about the bud washing. But trimming, I have found, like, little fruit flies. You know, so bud washing is a major thing. You want to make
Switch
sure
to cocoa.
Listen, I was outdoors.
If it's
so it didn't matter.
outdoors, there's bird shit, man. You
Yeah,
can't,
but switch to
don't
cocoa.
fix that.
Switch to cocoa, motherfucker. You already
No.
know that Pete has fungus gnats. Don't lie to me.
Go organic. Just
I grew
add more
I
bugs.
grew with Pete for so
Add
many
more
years.
bugs.
I switched to cocoa. I got no bugs. None.
So, but yes, no, like we're talking about cleanliness and all that, and I, you know, obviously we'll touch more base about the bud washing later on when we get into the harvest things, you know, the harvest stage of our episodes, and obviously what the pros and cons of bud washing.
Oh,
You
I
know?
want to dive into it right now. Not like dive. We can really bring up like a whole bud washing episode and like
we're
try
gonna
it
have
out
to.
and do it, and like I want to show you what you can see if you don't, not just gonna go YouTube it right now because you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? They're talking about washing their weed after they cut it. You have to do it within like you should do it right when you chop, like immediately.
Yes. When you chop your branches
have
before
like
you hang.
a window, but just do it right away. And you should do it, period. Because I don't give a fuck if you're outside or you're inside. You're using a circulating fan. You ever looked at that thing? How dusty is it? You ever looked at weed? How sticky is it? That shit is all over your weed. And while you might lose a couple trichomes in the process, if you think about all the dirt and shit, if you look at your water after you do it, I've never done it because, to be honest with you, whenever I chop, I'm in such a rush. I just don't have time. But every time I mean to do it, and I just don't. It's my own fault. I'm being lazy. But if you see the water after like you're smoking that every time. No wonder your weed tastes like hay and shit. Like, yeah, I'm talking to you, the one who's like, holy fuck. I know my weed looks like crap. My fan's covered in cat hair. Yeah, I know it is. Yeah,
So
you right now.
To get on the trichlone.
Bro, there is somebody panicking. Like, oh fuck, man, they know. Like, he's high as shit. Watch this going. They fucking know. They fucking found me. They saw those cat hairs in the weed. Oh,
So, but the article, I did read two different articles, and they did sit there and state that you don't lose triclones. But yes, you do not miss. You don't
Trichomes.
lose any of them. You don't lose any of them at all.
because
if
you do it when the plant's still wet, right? It's still
using
fresh.
cold water too. You're using cold water, so
and it's gentle. It's a gentle action.
not like
You're stir the fuck back.
Oh no,
it's
stir it. Stir it
gentle.
and then send me your water. I'll run it through my bags.
Actually, when I harvest in May,
Actually,
do
get out a wooden
fucking-
spoon while you're in there and give a little gentle rub up and down the flowers, and then
Jesus.
send me your water.
Justin's trying to make bubble hash on your dime, motherfucker. But it's little
I'm
stuff.
completely playing with you guys. Gentle, like they were saying.
But
Very
it's
gentle.
little things, right?
Yeah.
We're talking bud wash. It kills me where I see somebody like trimming weed over a dirty ass table that's covered in like ash, right? Or they're fucking smoking right over as they trim, and you know that's gonna fall on the bud. Justin's making faces.
Oh my
Also, little
God.
stuff.
Maybe not over it, but I definitely am smoking when I
You
trim.
smoke. I don't. I got a pipe, but it's off.
I
to the
take
side.
breaks. I take breaks. Like I'll trim a few plants. I'll take a break. Trim a few.
Can't
take a
start
break.
doing this shit. They're like, I can't trim no more. I have a table that I pull
You
out,
get there.
and I put down wax paper.
You pull out.
I pull I have a vasectomy so that I can do what I want.
No, I had a vasectomy.
Man, I gotta join this fucking club, man. I'm over here like, let me join the club.
Dude, I had a vasectomy because my son was born at 24 weeks, so I'm not
playing
experiencing
Frogger
that
on
ever
490
again.
every time.
It's just dodging bullets.
I mean, Justin, I know you're a gambler. You played Russian roulette.
We'll leave it. It's funny. We love you.
Oh yeah, that's what makes it.
But yeah, anyway, tying up ethics. I mean, even with some of the organic products, you might want to look into like their harvesting methods or like what they're actually coming from, right? Just because you're growing organically, it might not necessarily mean you're growing cleanly. A lot of these
guanos.
Yeah, maybe not necessarily the most sustainably harvested. And as far as like blood meals and bone meals and stuff like that, that comes from like scrapings of butcher floors. And not that I necessarily am opposed to using waste products. I think it's a great use of the product. However, a lot of the livestock is treated heavily with antibiotics these days. That's going to be in the bone meal, blood meal, more than likely. And more than likely, it's not being reported to you. So pay attention to what your mix is, where it's coming from, who they source their stuff from. If you're going that route and if you care. If you don't care and you just want to grow good weed and you want to get high and you don't care if there's a little bit of antibiotics in there and you don't care if the kelp has a little bit of heavy metals in it and you don't care that the synthetics are definitely heavy metals in there, go for it, please. Because as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, the process of growing weed is therapeutic. And like I said before, do you, boo-boo.
But this,
Kenny.
Go ahead, Kenny. You had your hand up.
What's wrong with a little extra antibiotics in your life?
They're probably not intended for you. And I don't know if you've ever, I don't know, you could, if you take antibiotics you're not supposed to take, or you don't fulfill a medical note here from somebody who has MRSA because of doctors flipping antibiotics on me when I was out for a medical thing from work. Anyway, I had to have like a golf ball sized chunk of flesh cut out of the bottom of my foot because I had a MRSA infection, because an infection in my toe like didn't get treated properly, right? Like they flipped the antibiotics on me, and then apparently that, so not apparently, this is how it works. I did go to school. I took biology class, unfortunately the same class like 3 times because I had to take it twice in high school because of the classes I was in then, not because of failing. It was just a 1 and 2 and basically the same fucking thing, but like, let's go more in depth. And then I had to do it again in college. Awesome. Anyway, so how it works, if you don't take your antibiotics full cycle and you don't entirely make sure you completely erase the microorganisms that you're going after, you will leave resistant microorganisms. Those resistant microorganisms will then more than likely reproduce resistant offspring, right? Which are going to multiply at a rapid rate when you're talking about microorganisms. And so then you now have a colony of microorganisms either within you or within whatever you're treating that is resistant to the antibiotic that you just treated it with. So that sucks because you've killed off all the ones that were susceptible. The only ones that are around are the ones that have resistance, right? So that gene sticks around, they reproduce, you got more of those. Next time you hit it again, maybe you kill them all, but maybe there was one that mutated and it's now super resistant because it's in the next generation, right? But really there's probably been like hundreds of generations by the time you realize it's a problem, or maybe even thousands, because that's how microorganisms work. And it's just out of control before you even know. Same thing with plant pathogens and stuff too, by the way, people. When you know it's a problem, typically it's more of a problem than it is. That's why they tell you to be vigilant. Which brings us to our final pre-grow consideration is how are you going to treat for pests, pathogens, and all of that, because you should be preventative. There are 5 arms. We'll do a whole episode. I'm not going to get crazy, but there's 5 arms of the IPM of different ways that you can manage. I'll dive into those later, but you should get ahead of it and either be using biologicals, be actively scouting, things like that. Make sure you're watching for pests and make sure you have a plan for how you're going to treat them in a couple different modes of action. Because if you just use one mode of action, the same thing I was talking about with antibiotics will happen. Devon, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They'll get resistant. No, I was counting down with you. I do have something to say, but you were on a wicked run.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, number one, for all of it, environment. If your environment's fucked, you have opened the door for pathogens.
There's a disease triangle. Do you know about it?
I do not know the disease triangle.
Okay, so you need a host, what is the word? I'm trying to say susceptible environment, but that's not what it is. It's a susceptible host, presence of a pathogen, and like an environment that pathogen can grow in, right? Those are the 3 things that you need for disease to happen. And time. My professor always, he took pathology at Cornell. He's fucking genius. Sean Canale, shout out, by the way. You're a great guy. Anyway, he used to always say that the 4th component is time, right? You need the amount of time in that environment with the pathogen present for it to actually occur. So like, it's not like you have to be perfect. Your environment can slip a little bit, and as long as you catch it in time, you can probably correct that before it's a problem. However, that's why you have to be vigilant, like we're talking about, because your pathogen's there. I promise you. When it comes to pathogens, insects, maybe not so much, but when it comes to they follow the same kind of triangle type thing though. Anyway, pathogens, they're there. Your susceptible host is there. You're growing it. So like Devon's saying, the only thing you can control is the environment, the 3rd corner of the triangle. And as long as you can keep that environment from being shitty for the wrong amount of time, you're good.
And a lot of organics is also based on outweighing negative pathogens with positive pathogens to create a non-sustainable host, like a non-susceptible host. That's the whole basis of why I have bugs in my soil.
It's like hanging a no vacancy sign.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I've got enough good stuff and that good stuff is happy, it's hard for bad stuff to move in and become established, you know. For those real quick, because I mean, geez, we could talk pest identification, prevention for hours and hours and hours and not cover it all. For those of you who have heard about introducing ladybugs, praying mantises, don't do it indoors. You're just going to murder them all. They're all going to starve to death, and they're not going to last long enough to complete the life cycle of the pest you're trying to eradicate. So basically, you have a pest infestation. You release, let's say, ladybugs. They go through, they eat all of the active pests, and the ladybugs starve before the next generation hatches. Because when I say active pest, I mean, let's say bugs with 6 legs. They don't always eat the eggs. They don't always eat the larvae, but your ladybugs will move on looking for other food sources or starve before the next generation is born and becomes a viable food source for those ladybugs.
And they're not heavy eaters. They're opportunistic eaters. And therefore, they're not really, the flyaway aspect makes them not really a economical predator.
They're phenomenal outdoors.
Because they got other shit keeping them around.
Well, what they recommend, especially if you're going to like buy them, you actually plant
anchor plants.
You plant anchor plants to actually attract these pests, and it causes the ladybugs to hang around because they know there's a food source. And then if you happen to have these pests on your plants. The idea being I have a natural, not generation, like a natural family of ladybugs that will then go, oh, okay, there's also some over here I will eat. But if you just have an infestation and you let them go, they're going to eat a few of those that are available and then go off looking for other food. And you're not going to have that problem eradicated. You'll think you will because they'll go away, or they'll decrease in number so much that it's hard to spot. And you'll be like, oh, right, I got rid of them. And then they come back, which goes into the pathogens and taking antibiotics. To complete these regimens. And when you think you have a pest, look up what the pests are, try and identify what pest you have, and look up how long that life cycle is. I mean, it'll tell you how long to run your prevention method, right? Like, I think the total lifespan for spider mites is 3 weeks total.
So you should just get yourself, let's be honest, you need to find some organic products, 2 to 3, that you can use on a rotational basis. Once a week, spray your plants. Every week, use a different product. Keep them on a rotation and you shouldn't overload. Make sure you're not using the same active ingredients, right? It's right on the bottle. Just look at it. If it says the same fucking thing as the one you already bought, don't buy it. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. You can look up a couple sprays. There's some really easy things like you don't have to buy insecticidal soap. You can use Dawn dish soap, right? Or any sort of gentle dish soap. You can mix that up and use that just in a mild solution to spray that right on your plants, that intermittently. But if you use something even once a week, if you really are trying to be active, you can use twice a week. But once a week, unless you're using beneficials, then you got to figure out a different kind of schedule. But if you're using those, you're probably a little more advanced anyways. But once a week, just spray something preventative. Make sure it's not harmful, so that it just make sure if you stay away from the synthetics, you're probably going to be okay. If you don't spray in flour, words today. If you don't spray in flour, you should be okay, right? Some of the synthetic chemicals will stick around from veg through flour, so that's why I say don't do that. There's probably some of the organic stuff too, but most of the organic pesticides are going to be fine. They're oil-based, right? And that therefore could theoretically mean they're going to assimilate into the cuticle or into the trichome. So I wouldn't recommend spraying during flour.
Nothing oil-based. There are some organic products that are designed that they'll say like can be used up to X amount of days before harvest. I know a company called Growers Ally. I haven't personally tried them, but I know that they stand behind their product and they're actually used in the commercial industry pretty extensively. But Growers Ally is one of those ones that you can use pretty close up to flour. And they're actually based off the Jotum principles.
Okay.
Of you basically create a boiled tincture using certain plants that are known to be pest repellents. And then you can use them either on their own or with a not suffragant. What am I thinking of?
Surfactant?
Surfactant. Is that the... It's going to kill me. I'm going to come right back because I want to use the right word here. I really do.
I'm pretty sure it's the right word. It's the wetting agent is what he's talking about.
Oh, the
surfactant.
Upstairs. Nope, but it's also back here.
It's fun to listen to him though. I hope you guys are enjoying this. He can't hear us right now because he usually uses the Bluetooth headphones, and I watched him take them off. So it's funny. Devon, you're going to enjoy this when you're editing. We'll see if you cut it out.
He's a good man, though.
He's a great man.
The word is wetting agent. There we go.
AKA surfactant.
Surfactant.
I had to double check myself.
No, you're good. But
That's one thing I pride myself on is my vocabulary most of the time because I've worked hard at building it. Anyway,
a wedding
like
agent. It's a wedding agent coupled with basically a tincture that's based off of plants that repel pests. Mint, basil. Be careful with fucking catnip because it'll attract cats to your shit. Cat piss will ruin your plants.
Cats like weed. Don't even worry about it. If you got cats around, they will eat your weed.
I've got 3 cats, and one of them is a straight up hoe for that shit. Like straight up hoe.
I don't know if you can see like right there that little wood box, and then you see the little statue right there.
That used to be
that used to be my best friend. We used to smoke a lot of weed together for 15 years. I got him when he was a kitten. He literally learned. Ready? Fabulous story. He learned to pick up a bag, bring it to my feet, drop it, go get a bowl, nudge it off the table, and meow to me when he wanted to get high.
My cat just does crackhead shit and like screams at me, and then like if I open the door and I'm not paying attention, she like bolts the fuck in, tries to run up the pot and just like, dude, I'm like, man, it's so crazy. We talked pets. We talked pets the other week, and I have had a week of just pets fucking my shit up. Dude, I've got the one that loves to. All right, I got the one that loves to run in and eat the fucking leaves. And she snuck in. I only cracked the tent so I could look in. And when I turned around, she jumped up, through, in, landed in the pot, and then chewed the fuck out of like 6 fan leaves. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And then the other one, she loves an insulated vegetative room. And she like just sits in there where the circulator fan is and has the warm fucking light on her. And she just hangs like she's mellow, but she sneaks the fuck in there and goes behind the pots. Well, guess who got locked in the fucking room all night? Guess who ripped up all my fucking insulation to get the fuck out? And like, I can't be mad because I feel bad because she's locked in there all night. She's an OG. Like, she didn't eat my plant. She didn't piss in nothing. But now I got to fix my fucking room all up. And just, dude, I am not fucking. My dog broke one of my bowls with her tail this week. Like, dude, I am so, like, I'm upstairs screaming, like, we'll never have a pet that lives outside of a cage again. I'm over it.
Honestly, going to your dog and your cat's eating your stuff, I had a gorgeous outdoor plant last summer, and my wife decided to get a puppy. Well, guess who decided to go and destroy my whole fucking plant as I had it caged up? Like, puppy. I made a custom metal cage around it and everything, and this dog destroyed the whole fucking thing.
Bro, talking about outdoor shit, it's really cool when you start doing podcasts, you start trying to start businesses and things, you start telling people that you never would have told, right? Yeah. There's this guy, and I'm in the hardware store, and he's friends with my grandpa for a million years, like to the point the guy was in my grandpa's will. And he's like, hi, Ben, I'm good. He's, what you doing? It's like, well, I'm doing this. We start talking about, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it outdoors, whole big thing, it'll be pretty cool. He goes, oh, all right. And he stops, he goes, you know what? You got to be careful of deer. They love that stuff.
Really do.
And now this is the most straight-laced dude, and he says that. And I go, oh, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. We'll have some barriers. It's going to be fenced off, obviously, for security purposes. And I walk out, and I go, that motherfucker knows deer like it. How the fuck is he smoking weed? He don't smoke weed. Like, dude, threw me for a fucking loop, and I realized, like, how quickly and easily it flowed. Like, that was a statement that came from experience. I was like, this motherfucker smokes. This motherfucker grows.
My buddy's an avid hunter, and he used to sit in the fucking woods before sunlight and would smoke. You know how many deer would be around his fucking blind?
That I want to test. I'm down to go in the woods and smoke at dawn and see if deer show up. I'll hunt, but I would test that.
Get some like nice skunky stuff though, dude.
I wanna take a minute to do a low key. I love you, bro, and I wanna make it clear that when I rip on people, it only means that I love them. I don't talk shit to people I don't like. So You definitely called yourself out for feeling attacked when I said you needed to go clean your fan. You were just talking about your cat was chilling in there next to your fan.
Oh.
And you were like, there was that guy. There was that guy who was sitting there feeling attacked. That was you, bro.
That was
I already
me.
know it was you.
That
You
was
were
me.
feeling it.
Listen, I will admit
I'm
that
that guy
I crawled in the back of the room and looked at my fan and went, oof, we need the air compressor when we're done here. It happens. The thing is, it's going to happen. And you're right. I was definitely that guy that was attacked.
Ready? Hold on. Don't hold your point though. Ready? I'm in an attic that is closed off, that is sealed off from animals. I actually lint roll myself before I go in my area. And I still have hair in there. Mind you, there's no heat vents up here. There's none of that. I vacuum. All that. Like, I still have cat hair. I still
Gotta
have animal
build
hair.
up the airlock, bro.
Yeah. But if you notice an issue, address it when you get the chance.
Yeah. Well, like, honestly, it's not. Obviously, I'm just going to
Or
clean up
just
and all
build
that.
that into your schedule. If you have pets, you should build cleaning your fan into your schedule because it not only is it gross for blowing around hair and stuff, that's
Dust
not even
and
really
shit.
the worst thing because like we were just talking about, you could fully wash your buds. And it'll probably be a great product. I'm gonna do it my next harvest.
Me
Anyway,
Definitely am too.
So it also reduces the efficiency of your fan, and I'm sure that Devon can probably speak a lot more to that than myself.
I could spend all day talking about the effects of cubic feet per minute based off of buildup, but no, I'll shorten it. Fans are designed to, a rotary fan is designed to push air. It basically kind of scoops it and throws it. And that angle is designed to maximize that scoop, that push based off the manufacturer. The more dust that builds up, it takes away the curvature of that scoop and just makes it flat. So what it does is it only throws the air straight down on itself instead of pushing it out. Your furnace will do that. We talk about putting a filter in your furnace. That's not just to keep your air clean, right? Like all that dust is in your fucking house no matter what. It actually will stick to components and block the air from coming out, and it will also stick to that giant fan that's in there and cause it to not move air and make your system overheat from being too gross. I've seen it. I've cleaned it.
And probably draw extra energy and not actually put anything out.
Exactly.
And even on top of that, even if you are cleaning your fans, like the majority of these fans aren't industrial. Like the industrial fans, you probably have less to worry about. But any of your plastic fin fans are going to naturally flatten out over time as well and lose some of that efficiency. And so over time, you just want to replace your fan, or at least the fan blades.
No, the
he
motor
ran away.
The motor does eventually like slow down and all that. It does get age and all that. So you're definitely gonna want to replace your fan at times. Like, don't be cheap. Obviously, I wouldn't say replace your fan every year, but maybe every 2 years, something like that. Keep an eye on it.
Do you know what though? In a tent, like especially in some of these smaller tents, you really like all you really need is one of these $12, $20 clip-on fans that you can get at Walmart or Amazon, right?
And they're not even that expensive.
I'm talking tent growing, home growing for yourself. Like, get that. And if you gotta buy a new one every year, what is $12 a year? What's $20 a year? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's well worth it to keep the circulation and reduce the chance of bud rot. So if you're just using your extraction fan without a circulation fan in there right now, because you just don't think you have the room, trust me, having one of those little $12 to $20 clip-on fans is way more beneficial than not. And it will last you a year, probably 3, but like at least a year. And then if you got to spend $20 next year, whatever.
And be thrifty. We got one of those. Man, I can't. I'm so cheap. Everybody who watches the show is gonna be like, bro, this dude definitely walks everywhere barefoot because he doesn't want to buy shoes. Like, okay, I had
a person who wears shoes.
But no, like we had a fan for our bedroom, right? It was one of the little round ones that sat on the floor with a stand and you could angle it up and down. And the fucking base broke off of it. And then I got a new tent that was a little bit bigger. And I was like, shit, I need a circulator fan. But I don't feel like paying for a fucking like a new circulator fan. I've got that fan rigged up with one of my ratchet ropes and a couple zip ties to change the fucking angle on it, right? And I move the fan up and down, I slide it down the poles, and I've just got this old broken fan with no base held on with a couple zip ties and my ratchet rope, and that's what I use as a circulator fan. It works. You know what I'm saying? Like,
You told me you started at COVID, right?
yeah. Got laid off.
You'll get over it soon.
No, I've
Bro,
been
my first like probably 4 or 5 years, maybe 6, were in my own home. So I was able to like build my space and do it in my garage. And I was changing that shit like every 5-6 months. I would rearrange it, right? And it sucks, man. And then
I'm
when when that fan gets fucked up and you gotta clean it and you gotta undo all your ratchet straps and then you gotta fucking put it back up with all your ratchet straps. And after doing that like 5 or 6 years, you're gonna be like, fuck this, it's worth $30 for a fan.
I moved it a lot. Once I find a good spot, I don't move it again. So I like the ability to move things till I find what I like. I'm thrifty and I'm fucking lazy. Like, I'm thrifty and lazy, bro. But I grow dank buds.
There's a lot of people who you do grow dank bud. I speak to that. 100%.
So does
tastes
Justin.
Delicious. Tastes so fucking clean.
So does Kenny. Holy fuck. I smoked some of Kenny's weed and got so much shit done in like a fucking hour.
Great.
Holy shit. I'm a microdoser. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll try this little
I hate that you
blunt.
call it that, but I guess that's what it is.
Okay, I take tiny little baby hits. That sounds better. Like you rip 2 dabs, I would just be in the hospital with a panic attack if I did that. It'd be terrible. No, like, and my thriftiness, I will let you onto an insight of like my childhood and my trauma, right? I get married, and my wife and I have been married for 10 years, and we only knew each other for 6 months before we got married, right? And we get married, and I get sent to be stationed in Hawaii, and she's tying up some shit, so I'm like in charge of getting the apartment and everything, and I get an apartment. And I pick her up from the airport. And I'm like, yeah, I've got an apartment. I got a wife. This is awesome. Man, she walks in the door, steps in, looks around, goes, what the fuck? What is that? What is what? She goes, what's in the dish drying rack? What's in the dish drying rack? The fuck is that? It's the Ziploc bags. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's the Ziploc bags I had saved some food in before. I fucking washed them and let them dry. And she's like, who the fuck does that? And growing up, we were so poor. Like my mom didn't want to spend money on new boxes of Ziploc bags. So like when you were done with the Ziploc bag, you took that shit, you put it in the sink, you washed it out, and then you put it on like the fucking spatulas or the handles of the pots and pans so it would dry out real good. And she showed up and she's like, what kind of ratchety ass shit are you doing in here, man? Like, you wash your bags. So like I've been thrifty forever, man. You know, so like when I approach grow, it's like, how can I get the most bang for my buck after that initial investment?
And that is a fucking beautiful element to have on this show, because there's a huge community of growers who are doing the same exact thing.
There is.
For me, I grew up the same exact way. Thrifty as a bitch, kind of pack ratty, and it just is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
But like, I started getting frustrated. If you came over to my house, you would see. Like, I trip over my own life. Just, I can clean up my whole office, and in a fucking day, it's ruined. It's just how it is. It's a bomb explodes, right? And being thrifty in my grow for 5 years felt like that. And so it was like ruining my zen. You know what I mean? And so I was like, you know what? Fuck that. Like, I'll just get a tent. I'll get the freaking little, the little pulley things, you know what I'm saying? And everything's gonna go clean. It's fucking nice. I wrap the wires up most of the time, unless I decide I got to switch things around or move a tent and like sit for a few weeks, but then they'll get wrapped up, right? And then it's just clean in there, right? I built a little fucking PVC cage for my 4x4, right? That like stops the tent from caving in and also holds the trellis netting. It's a beautiful thing. Now, one thing I will say, if you think you are going to save money by getting reusable trellis netting, I recommend not.
I recommend not to.
Botrytis like a bitch ruined my whole shit. You want to talk about a bad day? I had a 13-week strain in there, and then I busted open the buds when I was trimming, and I was like,
all of it?
All of it. I was so depressed, I just threw it all out. I was fucking pissed, man. I was like, fucking mold.
Botrytis is bud rot. We talked about it earlier. Botrytis is bud rot.
I want the old school tomato cages, stakes in the middle of the fucking pot.
So let me ask you this. Why do you guys trellis?
I trellis to spread my canopy to increase my yields. It increases the light penetration to the bud sites, not necessarily penetration through the canopy, because you're obviously reducing the length of that stick that's going to get penetration because you're spreading out the top canopy. But I also get a top canopy that then when it hits, when I fill out that first layer of trellis, right? Then those are all bud sites around that canopy, right? That then will actually grow vertical, just like when you do your low stress training.
Yeah.
So it's essentially taking topping and then applying low stress training to it through a trellis net to then allow all of those bud sites to come up.
But the nice part about yours is when you low stress train, because you're pulling down to the pot, what you don't get is those nice lower bud sites growing vertical. You know what I mean? It's harder to pull those branches out flat once they get so fucking tall, right? There's just not enough space. Because what I'm doing when
I don't know if I'm following your train of thought, because I feel like mine are fairly tall for plants.
Yours are. Yeah, I'm saying once I do my low stress training, if I veg them for too long, right, they regrow and they just start to grow vertical, and I still have that same vertical stack. Where when you're trellising, you keep pulling them out. So you're a tall plant, but you can get those lower 4th, 5th, 6th node in that direct light, right, and get those nodes to really produce.
They all become tops, yeah.
Yeah. Where I do, mine all become tops, but all of my lower branches, right, on that Christmas tree shape, all of my lower branches are now the same distance from the light as the top one, and I don't put it through that high stress training of topping. You know what I mean? So all I'm doing is giving the tip of each branch the equal amount of light, but I'm not giving that 5th, 6th node, 4th, 5th, 6th node the same amount of light. So like as I drop down, I'll still get some larvae buds. Now I couple in lollipopping with it to limit the amount of larvae buds that I gotta fucking deal with over time, but it still happens. You know what I mean?
Different strokes for different folks, right? And like I don't hate on low stress training whatsoever. I think it's a phenomenal way to grow. It personally freaks me out, like having the plants so close to the canopy. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't. I like having pretty bare, like a solid foot above the soil line. Not always, but going into flower.
I get what you're saying. You have like, a very distinct gap.
Trees. Now, I grow trees.
Yeah.
Like typically. Well, so you guys have been seeing my mom's, and I try to keep them like trees. Sometimes they bush out because I'm trying to grow for bulk babies, right? But like more often than not, I keep them pretty bare just because I like to have the airflow, reduce the chance of pathogens, powdery mildew, microclimates, all that shit. I just like, if I don't need the bulk, I like to keep it clean. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, plus I also like to, I'm kind of sadistic. I like to cut shit when I'm in there. Like I like ripping leaves off. Like,
I go nuts. Yeah, with the thumb, you do the old thumb.
Yeah.
I'm
I
the
get in
complete
there-
opposite. I'm the complete opposite. Like honestly, I baby my plants. I'm afraid to top them. I'm honestly I have topped them recently. I don't really like to because I'm always scared that like I'm gonna hurt the plant and then it's gonna kill it, and I know it's not going to. But for like I have like personal OCD issues, so like
That tall one you got, man, I would never let a plant get that tall. Never in a million years.
even if I were to crop it, because I have particularly cropped that plant before, that particular strain, and it will grow right the fuck back up to that light.
That's what I'm saying. You get
That's why
bend them bitches down.
Let's just
honestly,
train him.
I thought about it, but that motherfucker just loves light. Like I've grown that particular strain 5 times now,
It's a tall
even
ass
outdoors. I've done it a few times outdoors. Like not that particular plant, but I've done seeds from that strain, all the same genetics, from the same mother father. Like I bred them seeds, and I'm gonna tell you right now, like
What'd you call me? No,
I said, I bred them seeds, bitch.
no, you said mother father. I just
I brought, I knew the mother and father. I brought them, and I'm actually almost out of them. I'm actually kind of upset. So I'm about to run a breeding run this summer for, I can get some more, and I'm actually happy with them. The thing is, though, is like they grow. I had a 7-foot plant that was like 4 foot wide.
oh yeah, man, good yield.
They'll just continue to grow up. It didn't care. It loves light. And them fuckers grow to the light. I don't know why, but they love the light. And once they hit it where they want, they protect. Once they get to the height, they just grow.
I'm
You know,
gonna
and-
I just got these babies in the mail.
saw that GMO Skittles.
So, Devon, that particular tall boy, tall girl, I should say, is the same one that we had setting up for that show you were talking about. That one little hit that fucking made you like work for an hour.
Bro. Like sitting at the side trying to help my wife, like, boo, I gotta find something to fucking do. I was just like, I need
You did look
something.
like you were on cocaine that day. You were like running. You're talking about the Art of Comedy show, right?
Yeah, I also love just having a task to help with. That's just how I do
don't mean
shit.
like you looked like you were on drugs. I just meant like you were
Like
fast.
he was moving. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
you were
moving.
moving and grooving.
That's how I do when I'm doing.
This is how
Like-
we do.
So
I haven't
and getting
sat
back,
still since I sat down on the fucking show, bro. I can't. I got my
That's
foot
why
on
you
my
need
hip.
to up the micro.
you need to take a
Just
major
at
one.
night. Just at night. For your
Right.
own self.
Oh, I do. I've gone back a couple times. It's if I had all day to build my tolerance, I'd be fine.
I don't
You know
know.
what I
You
mean?
shouldn't build your tolerance. That's an expensive way to do things. What I'm saying is like when you've reasonably hit your end of work for the day, you should just blaze the fuck down.
I
bro.
can't
like,
because I have panic attacks, dude. Like I get that shit with my heart like
right.
pounding out my chest, and I know it's a panic attack. It's not the cannabis affecting me because like I'll get myself almost in a different mind state and then finally be calm, and then I'll think about how my body feels and I'm back into it again, and it's like waves. And if it was the cannabis like affecting me negatively, my thought process would not affect how I was feeling in the moment.
That makes sense.
So it's just my body is feeling a fast, sudden change, and it causes me to have a fight or flight adrenal response.
Yeah.
And then I have an adrenal response with no outlet. Like I just dumped fucking adrenaline and I'm supposed to sit in a chair, which freaks me out even more. And then I'm panicking. So I can't blaze because it can become uncomfortable. But what I can do is baby step up through, like when I'm home alone on like a fucking Saturday and I got a chance and I'm all caught up with shit to do. Maybe I got to mow the yard or do some dishes, and I'll just start baking and just keep going through the whole day at a nice even pace.
Supposed to be like a whole gram, yo.
Dude, yeah, just fuck you. I'm just saying a single bowl lasts me 2 to 3 days.
That's awesome. I'm jealous, honestly, because to think of the money I would have in my pocket if I didn't smoke as heavily as I do.
Well, that's why I started growing for myself. Is literally that's the whole reason why I grew.
But like,
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, we're not gonna. Allegedly.
No, listen, I legit started growing because I was scared of getting weed from other people and not knowing what was in it.
That too.
That drove me. I was like, if somebody laces this shit, maybe it kills me, or maybe I have a bad trip and hurt somebody. Like, I'm a big fucking dude. I'm 6 foot tall, 220 pounds. Like,
certainly was not concerned about any of those things. When I first got my first weed plant, I was still cokehead.
The only time I tried coke, I was like 3 days into a Molly binge, and then was like, dude was like, you want to try coke? And I was like, sure. And I did a line of coke. I was like, yeah, my throat's numb, but I'm already way too fucked up to feel this. And that was the first and last time I tried coke.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on Molly, it's not going to change your situation much, because chances are that Molly is probably cut with something similar to cocaine to give it the racing feeling.
Yep.
Even though they say it's MDMA, man, they don't have any of that fucking pure shit going around here.
No,
let's be real.
Get the fuck out of here.
Anyway, I'm not a drug advocate. We shouldn't be talking about these things so lovingly. Drugs
are bad,
good in their own right. If you're able to control yourself and handle your business, please partake in any method that you wish. If it ruins your life, please learn that and stop. That's it. Alcohol was ruining my life. I stopped. But guess what? I smoke a fuck ton of weed.
Yo.
I'm nobody to judge anybody.
Oh,
if you can handle your fucking business, bro, do you?
Yeah. That's so right. Let's be honest. If you've been smoking meth, you might want to roll back, my man.
If you've been smoking meth and you still got a fucking job, do you?
That's some inspirational shit.
For
that
real,
needs
though.
To be on a fucking poster.
Bro, I used to bust down a fucking 8-ball of cocaine, if not every day, every 2 days, and polish off a bundle of heroin every night to try and make it look like I wasn't on cocaine. And I held down a job the entire time.
God
not saying I was good to my family, but guess what I was doing when I wasn't working? I was trying to get more money by doing scrap metal and other things. I was actually pretty gainfully employed. And besides the fact that I was just doing drugs on a regular basis, I wasn't really doing anything to fuck with anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
Oh, well, besides driving like an asshole, but like you don't really make the best decisions on drugs. That's why they should just make them legal so that you can go buy them and then do them responsibly. And guess what? A lot less people would do them if they were legal, because they would be less appealing and less cool. Because let's face it, as humans, since we're as a fucking dad of a 3-year-old, it's fun to say no. It's fun to do what's wrong. It's fun to do what might be risky. And if you take away the fucking risk of it and say, hey, you could do this shit, just go over to this safe place and we're not going to let you leave until after you're fucking straight, then a lot less people are going to be going to those safe places.
Like the first time my daughter catches me smoking weed, she's going to be like, oh, this isn't cool anymore. Like immediately done. Immediately like, oh, this is like my dad's listening to Shinedown and smoking weed. What the fuck? This is lame as shit.
I'm all about normalization, bro.
That's fair.
Normalization.
That's fair.
I don't push it. I don't by any means try to smoke with my kid in my vicinity. But if I'm outside smoking a joint and he comes running up to me, I'm not going to hide it. I'll move it so the smoke doesn't go in his direction.
Face, yeah.
You know what I mean? But like,
you want it to look no different than somebody having a beer while grilling, right? Like
exactly.
nobody blinks their fucking eyes at that shit.
And do you know what? Most people don't blink an eye at a joint. No. You personally right now, unless they have a no smoking sign up, can go grab a joint, stand in front of the police station, and spark it up and smoke it right the fuck there, and hand it to them if you want. Here you go.
Yep.
But they probably shouldn't take it right there in front of the police station. But if you catch them when they're not wearing their uniform, they might.
I would recommend if you are going to smoke in public or anything like that, check the laws, things like that, because I know you can't smoke in Batavia Downs Casino Smoke Lounge, even though it's a smoking lounge. You can't smoke weed in there.
So that would be a private institution's personal policy. The actual cannabis law only follows the Clean Indoor Air Act, so you can't smoke cannabis anywhere. You can't smoke a cigarette. Right. But a private, like you said, institution can implement their own rules in regards. Now they can stop you from smoking it like inside that smoke lounge, but
you can go outside and smoke it.
You can go outside. And I know a lot of places are doing that. However, I know right now that in New York City, there's a bill being run around where they're trying to limit where you can smoke it in New York City outside.
There probably also is some land laws in there somewhere, just so that you don't get on your high horse if some security team confronts you when you're at the casino and you're trying to smoke a joint in front of the door and they're high roller bitches about it, so they got to kick you out. There probably is some land laws that say that you can, even if somebody's smoking a cigarette, that you can't smoke cannabis, like it's private property, you can do what you want, right? So like, don't be like, oh, well, I'm fucking outside. Well, chances are if you're in their parking lot, you're still on their property. So it's like, they can tell you whatever they want. Yeah. So just don't get on a high horse and get yourself in trouble.
If somebody asks you to stop, understand that it's new and we're trying to change the mentality around the culture. And if they say, hey, man, you can't smoke that here. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
I apologize. Hey, where can I go? And they'll tell you, like, bro, just like walk over to that back corner. Please don't do it in front of the door. You'd be amazed.
Smoke here.
You'd be amazed at the response you get if you say, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and then just ask somebody, where can I?
Yeah.
Or get with the times and get a fucking vape pen and they won't even know you're doing it. Not inside. I'm saying outside.
I'm saying
if you rip a vape, what?
They sketch me out, man. Like,
they got hash rosin cards, bro. I'm down with those.
Bro,
listen, there you go, right there.
I mean, I see them. I'm just so like, I'm against even the regular vapes, like a non-nicotine straight.
Let me introduce you to Greg.
It doesn't matter. I'm not pro vape at all. Just like, I already know the shit that's in cigarettes is bad for me. You know what I mean? I know that smoking cannabis is not the healthy way to consume. You know what I mean? Like oils, tinctures, edibles. I like the idea of oils and tinctures a lot more than edibles, just it's a little more controlled. I don't like anything on the principle of vapes, cannabis or otherwise.
Have you ever hit them?
Yes.
Do they fuck you up bad?
Yeah, they fuck my lungs up bad. They make my throat super scratchy. Like, I don't know what's in them. I mean,
which ones have you tried?
The dose. I've tried, whatever I get sent from a friend of mine. I've tried a bunch of them out here because a lot of my friends use them. And one buddy calls it robo weed. And we fucking hate him for it. But no, like anything vape has fucked with my lungs, but I've got issues with my lungs anyway. And they're just more sensitive to the vapes themselves.
Well, that's fair because you're vaporizing it's an entirely different process than it's going to be more direct as far as the terpenes and cannabinoids go. It's going to be less plant material per se that's like diluting it, if you will, even though you would think it'd be more irritant.
Well, it's not even that.
Something that's less interactive with your lungs, right?
It's the base of it that makes me nervous, like the holding media of those oils that I don't like. I hate the whole
that's what I was saying.
Process.
I wanna introduce you to Greg and see if maybe he has some insight that I'm not educated enough to try and talk to you, but let me tell you something, dude. When I smoke his carts, I swore off carts for a lot of the same reasons you're talking about. My biggest reason was that, to me, the fake flavor. Weed tasted like that. That just didn't feel right to me. You know what I'm saying? So I was out.
The carts I've had are, trying to not implicate myself, but I've had them from reputable, tested sources
I'm
where it
with you.
actually tastes like cannabis. There's no anything added to it, and I'm not vape guy. I don't like the process. And I mean, it's for people. I mean, it's a great incognito way to smoke when you're out.
What about a vaporizer for a dab, like a Yokan pen?
Oh, I've done that. I would probably do if I could fucking handle it without having a panic attack.
So that's like what the hash rosin carts are. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That's why they make those, which are like the pure, it's fucking hash rosin, bro. You know what I mean? It's heat and pressure.
Yeah.
So there's no.
Yeah, you're just heating that up and getting it to off.
Warming it.
I've heard phenomenal things about
that. That I would do. That I would do because there's not that weird oil with a vitamin whatever base. Like that's just pure heating THC through a mechanical thermal means and then inhaling it. There's nothing else to it but pressed hash rosin. That's fine. Also, I like the old school like volcano vaporizer. Fucking buddy of mine had one of those where you fucking just heat up the bud, fill up the giant fucking bag and sit there. That shit was dope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I just glanced over. I was like,
Yeah, so we have a tendency to ramble. Thank you everybody who's hanging out with us.
Yes.
We are going to try and keep it at the hour and a half mark moving forward. If it goes over, we're not going to stop it because we like to talk. But like I said, if you want to hop off, we're not offended by any means. We like to talk grow. We hang out. We're shooting the shit. And maybe something's going to pop up that'll be beneficial to you guys. So that's why we stay on and ramble at the end here, right? Yep. But we're going to wrap up.
That's why all the educational is first. Get the education out. And then you can just enjoy the sweet, soothing sounds of Kenny, Justin, and Devon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what you need to remember most, the grow don't stop here.
Grow don't stop here.
It is so sweet under the sun. And even if my pocket's empty, I don't really want